WWE just exposed their biggest lie about Seth Rollins, and what happened to Bron Breakker is disgusting. Everything WWE has told us about Seth Rollins' injury was a complete fabrication, and what he just did backstage to Bron Breakker proves that WWE has zero respect for you as a fan or for the safety of their own superstars. The architect, the man who preaches about professionalism and doing things the right way, just launched one of the most cowardly, premeditated attacks in WWE history, and the fact that this destroyed Roman Reigns' entire backup plan makes this conspiracy go deeper than anyone could have imagined. Before I break down every shocking detail of this betrayal, answer me this: is Seth Rollins the biggest hypocrite in professional wrestling? Or is this attack completely justified after everything the Bloodline has done? Drop your raw, unfiltered opinion in the comments, because what I'm about to expose will make you question everything WWE has been feeding you for months. Let me paint the picture of what actually went down backstage, because WWE is desperately trying to control the narrative and hide the full extent of what happened. Seth Rollins, who we were told was nursing a serious knee injury that would keep him out indefinitely, somehow materialized backstage at Monday Night Raw like a ghost. But this wasn't some spontaneous, emotional return where he couldn't stay away from the business he loves. This was calculated. This was planned. Sources backstage confirmed that Seth had been in the building for over 3 hours before anyone even knew he was there, hiding in a restricted area, watching monitors, waiting for the exact right moment to strike. Bron Breakker never saw it coming, and that's exactly how Seth wanted it. The young powerhouse was walking through the backstage corridor after finishing a conversation with production staff, completely relaxed, probably thinking about his next meal or his upcoming match. That's when Seth Rollins emerged from behind an equipment crate with a kendo stick in hand and absolutely obliterated Breakker across the back. The sound of that first shot echoed through the entire backstage area like a gunshot. Bron went down immediately, and what happened next was nothing short of assault. Seth didn't stop with one shot. He hit Bron Breakker 17 times with that kendo stick, and I counted every single one from the leaked footage. 17 brutal, calculated strikes aimed at Bron's back, his shoulders, his ribs, anywhere that would cause maximum damage. Security was scrambling to respond, but Seth had positioned himself perfectly, blocking the narrow corridor so they couldn't get to him quickly. By the time agents finally pulled him off, Bron Breakker was curled up on the ground, his back covered in welts and marks, barely conscious. And Seth? Seth was standing there with this disturbing smile on his face, breathing heavily, looking like he'd just accomplished something he'd been dreaming about for weeks. Quick question for the comments: what's the most brutal weapon shot you've ever seen in WWE history? Let me know below, because this kendo stick assault might have just made the list. But here's where this story gets absolutely nuclear and exposes the conspiracy at the heart of WWE's current power structure. Bron Breakker wasn't just some random target. He wasn't collateral damage in Seth's war with the Bloodline. Bron Breakker was Roman Reigns' secret backup plan, the insurance policy that Paul Heyman had been carefully cultivating behind the scenes for months. According to multiple sources with direct knowledge of Bloodline operations, Roman had been personally mentoring Bron, teaching him the psychology of dominance, preparing him to be the enforcer who could protect Bloodline interests when Roman himself wasn't available. Paul Heyman had been meeting with Bron Breakker weekly, sometimes multiple times per week, in private sessions that weren't on any official WWE schedule. They'd meet in hotel rooms, in Heyman's personal office, anywhere they could talk without being observed. Heyman was teaching Bron the business side of wrestling, how to politic backstage, how to leverage his physical gifts into long-term power. This wasn't just about making Bron a better wrestler. This was about creating the next generation of Bloodline leadership, someone who could carry the torch when Roman eventually decides to step back. Solo Sikoa had been brought into these conversations as well, working with Bron in the ring, teaching him the Bloodline's aggressive, methodical style. The plan was brilliant in its simplicity: position Bron Breakker as a loyal ally who could handle the mid-card threats while Roman focused on main event dominance. Eventually, when the time was right, Bron would be elevated to full Bloodline membership, creating an unstoppable faction with Roman as the tribal chief, Solo as the enforcer, and Bron as the destroyer. It would have been the most dominant stable in modern WWE history. But Seth Rollins found out, and he just burned that entire plan to the ground. Do you think Bron Breakker would have been a good fit for the Bloodline, or would it have ruined his individual potential? Comment your honest take. The fake injury that Seth had been selling makes this whole situation even more infuriating and proves WWE has been lying to fans with zero remorse. Remember all those segments where Seth was on crutches, hobbling around, talking about how devastated he was to be injured during the most important time of the year? Remember the medical updates, the doctor's appointments, the physical therapy videos WWE posted on social media? All of it was theatrical deception designed to make us believe Seth was genuinely hurt so his return would have maximum impact. But if Seth was healthy enough to hide backstage for 3 hours, healthy enough to swing a kendo stick 17 times with enough force to leave a grown man unconscious, then he was never injured at all. This isn't just questionable booking. This is WWE deliberately deceiving their audience about a performer's medical status, and that sets a dangerous precedent. How are fans supposed to trust any injury report going forward? When someone gets hurt, how do we know if it's real or if it's just storyline setup for a future angle? WWE has blurred the line between reality and fiction so completely that nothing can be taken at face value anymore, and that's exactly what they want. Confusion keeps people engaged, keeps them guessing, keeps them watching to see what's real and what's not. The attack itself reveals something deeply disturbing about Seth Rollins' mental state and his willingness to cross lines that should never be crossed. This is the same man who built his reputation on being the ultimate professional, the workhorse, the guy who shows up every night and delivers. He's talked endlessly about respecting the business, honoring the traditions, doing things the right way. But hiding backstage to ambush someone who isn't prepared for a fight? Using a weapon against an opponent who can't defend himself? That's not the behavior of a hero or even an anti-hero. That's the behavior of a villain who's lost all moral boundaries. Roman Reigns' reaction to discovering his backup plan had been destroyed was reportedly volcanic. When news reached him that Bron Breakker had been attacked and Seth Rollins was responsible, Roman allegedly went completely silent in the middle of a production meeting. Everyone in the room froze, waiting to see how the tribal chief would respond. According to people who were present, Roman calmly stood up, looked directly at Paul Heyman, and said 3 words that sent chills through everyone who heard them: find him. Now. Not book a match or let's handle this through proper channels. Just find him now. That's not wrestling storyline language. That sounds like genuine intent to cause harm. What do you think Roman Reigns' revenge should look like? Should he destroy Seth immediately or play mind games first? Drop your fantasy booking in the comments. Paul Heyman's response was equally telling. The Wiseman, who always has a plan and always maintains composure, looked genuinely shaken for one of the first times in his legendary career. Months of careful planning, countless hours of secret meetings, all the work of building Bron Breakker into Roman's perfect weapon, all destroyed in 30 seconds of violence. Heyman reportedly spent the next hour on his phone, making calls to people throughout the industry, gathering information, trying to figure out how Seth discovered the plan and how much else he might know about bloodline operations. The leaked footage of the attack raises serious questions about who filmed it and why they wanted it public. WWE's backstage security is typically airtight about preventing unauthorized footage from getting out, so for this video to leak suggests either a massive security failure or deliberate action by someone with access. Some people are speculating that Seth himself arranged for the footage to be leaked because he wanted the world to see what he did. He wanted Roman to see it. He wanted Bron to relieve the humiliation. Others think someone in the bloodline leaked it to generate sympathy and justify whatever brutal retaliation is coming. There's even a theory that WWE itself leaked the footage as a marketing strategy, letting unauthorized content spread organically to create buzz they couldn't generate through official channels. Bron Breakker's current condition is being kept quiet by WWE, which only adds to the speculation and concern. Initial reports suggested he was taken to a local medical facility for evaluation, with potential concerns about spinal damage from the repeated kendo stick shots to his back. His father, Rick Steiner, reportedly flew in immediately after hearing about the attack, and the Steiner family is not known for their patience or forgiveness. If Rick Steiner believes his son was targeted unfairly, if he thinks WWE didn't do enough to protect Bron, this could escalate into a situation that goes far beyond scripted wrestling storylines into real-world family vengeance. The Steiner family legacy makes this attack even more significant and potentially dangerous. Rick Steiner and Scott Steiner built their reputation on being legitimate tough guys who didn't take disrespect from anyone. They were shooters, real athletes with amateur wrestling backgrounds who could handle themselves in any situation. For someone to attack their family member the way Seth attacked Bron is not just a wrestling angle to them, it's a legitimate insult that demands a legitimate response. If Scott Steiner decides to get involved, and there are rumors he's been contacted about the situation, Seth Rollins might have just bitten off way more than he can chew. Can you name another time a wrestler's family got involved in revenge for an attack? Drop examples in the comments section. The strategic brilliance of Seth's target selection cannot be overlooked, even as we criticize the method. Seth didn't go after Roman directly. He didn't attack Solo Sikoa or any of the current bloodline members. He identified the future of Roman's empire and eliminated it before it could fully develop. That's the thinking of someone who's not just fighting battles but trying to win an entire war. By taking out Bron Breakker, Seth isn't just hurting Roman today. He's preventing Roman from building a sustainable power structure that could dominate WWE for the next decade. It's ruthless, it's calculated, and it proves Seth has been thinking about this revenge for much longer than anyone realized. The timing of this attack, coming right as WrestleMania season approaches, suggests this is the opening salvo in what could be the defining storyline of the year. WWE has been building toward a massive confrontation between Seth Rollins and the Bloodline for months, but everyone assumed it would happen through official channels, through scheduled matches and structured storytelling. Seth just threw all of that out the window and declared that this war will be fought on his terms, in the shadows, with no rules and no mercy. That's compelling television, but it's also potentially dangerous if WWE can't maintain control of the narrative. Fan reaction across social media has been intensely polarized, which shows WWE has successfully created a situation where there's no clear right answer. Seth's longtime supporters are defending the attack as justified payback for years of bloodline dominance and abuse. They argue that Roman and his family have operated outside the rules for so long that someone finally had to fight fire with fire. But a growing contingent of fans is pointing out the massive hypocrisy of Seth's actions. This is the man who constantly preaches about honor, integrity, and doing things the right way. Hiding backstage to ambush someone with a weapon doesn't align with any of those supposed values. Is Seth a hero finally taking the fight to the villain, or has he become the villain himself? The debate is raging online and it's driving massive engagement. The legal and ethical implications of this attack are things WWE will probably never address, but they deserve examination. In what universe can an employee hide on company property for hours, stalk another employee, then violently assault them with a weapon without facing immediate termination and possible criminal charges? I understand wrestling operates in its own reality with different rules, but there have to be some boundaries. If WWE portrays this attack as acceptable behavior without serious consequences for Seth, they're sending a terrible message about workplace violence and accountability. They're essentially saying that if you're a top star, you can assault coworkers and face no real repercussions beyond storyline drama. The SmackDown locker room's response to this attack will be fascinating to watch unfold. Are other superstars going to publicly support Seth's vigilante justice? Are they going to side with Roman out of fear or respect? Or is this going to create a third faction of wrestlers who are tired of both sides and want to establish their own power base? The political implications backstage could reshape the entire WWE landscape depending on who aligns with whom and who decides to stay neutral. Every wrestler is going to have to choose a side, and those choices will define careers and storylines for years to come. Paul Heyman's carefully constructed empire showing this kind of vulnerability is unprecedented and raises questions about the bloodline's long-term viability. For years, Heyman has positioned Roman and the bloodline as unstoppable, untouchable, inevitable. But having their secret plans exposed and destroyed before they could come to fruition shows that the empire has cracks in its foundation. Seth Rollins just drove a sledgehammer into those cracks, and now everyone is going to be watching to see if the whole structure starts crumbling. Roman's aura of invincibility has been damaged, and in wrestling, perception is everything. Once people start believing you can be beaten, you're already halfway to losing. Do you think this attack marks the beginning of the bloodline's downfall, or will they come back stronger than ever? Share your prediction below. The psychological warfare aspect of this attack might be even more damaging than the physical violence. Seth didn't just hurt Bron Breakker's body, he hurt Roman Reigns' pride and confidence. He showed that Roman's plans can be discovered and dismantled. He proved that the bloodline isn't as secure or as smart as they thought. He demonstrated that he's willing to cross any line, break any rule, and sacrifice any principle to get his revenge. That kind of psychological damage is harder to recover from than any beating in the ring. Roman has to be second-guessing everything now, wondering what else Seth knows, what other attacks might be coming, who else in his organization might be compromised or targeted. The question of how Seth discovered Roman's backup plan is something WWE hasn't addressed yet but absolutely needs to. Does Seth have a mole inside the bloodline feeding him information? Has he been conducting his own surveillance operation, following people, listening to conversations, piecing together the puzzle? Or did he get lucky and stumble onto the plan accidentally? The answer to this question could reveal whole new layers to the story and potentially expose other characters as secretly working against the bloodline. If Seth has an informant, finding and punishing that person will become Roman's top priority, creating even more paranoia and division within the organization. WWE's creative direction with this storyline suggests they're building towards something massive, probably at WrestleMania or one of the other major premium live events. The question is whether they can maintain this intensity and momentum without going so far that it becomes unwatchable or offensive. There's a fine line between compelling violence that serves the story and gratuitous brutality that turns audiences away. WWE has crossed that line before, and there are legitimate concerns they might be approaching it again with the Seth Rollins bloodline situation. The company needs to be careful about how far they push this, because once you lose the audience's emotional investment by going too extreme, it's very hard to get it back. So here's my final challenge to you, and I genuinely want to hear every opinion on this. Is Seth Rollins a justified avenger who's finally fighting the bloodline on their own terms? Or is he a cowardly hypocrite who ambushed an innocent target? And when Roman Reigns gets his inevitable revenge, should he show Seth the same mercy Seth showed Bron Breakker? Or should he be even more brutal to send a message? Get in those comments right now and let your voice be heard, because this war is just beginning and it's going to get so much bloodier before anyone finds peace.